I'm Tony Ruiz, contributing editor at Gold Derby, here with Trish Adlesic, Oscar nominated for the ABCs of book banning in the documentary short category. And Trish, we were talking just before we started, just in terms of we are in this point in education where now it's almost seems like taking away knowledge is the avenue that people want to go, against the backdrop of so many things happening in the world where that knowledge is so necessary. Was that one of the impetuses behind this film?
Absolutely. I mean, we advocate for all children to be able to read all books all around the world on every subject. Obviously, age appropriate is of the utmost importance, but I think we were both, Sheila Nevins and I were strikingly alarmed when we saw the magnitude of how many books were being banned and what kinds of books were being banned. But I must give credit to the wonderful 101-year-old Grace Lynn, a Florida resident from Martin County, who went before her school board and talked about her personal experience with book banning and what it can lead to. Her husband was killed by the Nazis in World War II, fighting for our freedom. And when Sheila Nevins saw her on TikTok and was completely just over the top impressed and moved by her act of courage and ability to get up in front of her school board and challenge them and say that all books should be available to kids. She called me later that day and said, "Can you go to Florida tomorrow?" It was a Friday afternoon, and I was on a plane Saturday. And I found Grace Lynn, and I went and met her. And it turns out her daughter went to my high school. And I grew up in Pittsburgh, so how could that be such a small world? And we really just fell in love with her. And she's a quilt maker, so she had all these quilts about what matters to her. And she was so strong, and just for a 100-year-old, she had more energy than I do. So when we got to know her and we saw her vision and her activism, we decided to bookend her, make her the opening and closing, and sort of juxtaposition it with kids and find out what kids were thinking about this, and sort of have Grace, the grandma kind of role, juxtaposition with these wonderful children you see in the film.
Well, and I wanted to ask about the children, because I feel like there's a great card in the film that says, we've heard from the voices that are advocating for these book bans, and we're going to devote this film to the voices of who it impacts the most. At what point did you guys decide that was going to be the approach you were going to take?
Pretty early on, we had been looking at the people who were behind the book banning, and we just felt like they were getting a lot of attention. There's an organization called Moms of Liberty. There are chapters in every single state, I believe, pretty much, and they're pretty active. And we just felt that we really weren't hearing from kids. And we saw one clip, as you see at the opening of the film, of the young, wonderful women, the 10-year-olds, Mrs. Burns' class, talking about, how they feel it's impeding their learning opportunities. And when we saw them, we thought, wow, I wonder what other kids think. And so we decided to really devote the voice of the film to the kids. And it was really, I give full credit to Sheila Nevins. I mean, she's got such a remarkable, fierce dedication to wanting to really get behind the voices that matter. And this is exactly why we interviewed kids from Florida to New York, and that's exactly what they had to say.
What were those conversations with the parents? I mean, how did you go about finding these kids, and what were the conversations like with the parents in terms of, did you find any resistance to what you wanted to do?
Not really. I mean, when we were in Florida initially, when we met Grace, she invited some of her friends over to her house, and a lot of them were concerned parents who didn't want books being banned. There were probably like 30 or 40 people that came to visit us while we were there. And a lot of them said, "Would you like to talk to our kids?" They might have something they want to share. And so we went to the Children's Museum in her town, and we had like a picnic, and a bunch of the kids came, and we handed them the banned books, and we asked them to draw pictures of their interpretation of the book and to tell us what they thought of the books. And that's exactly what they said. We didn't prompt them at all. We just said, "What do you think of Antango Makes Three? And why do you think it's being banned?" And Most of the parents were really excited and supportive. One of our challenges was not being able to put every single kid in the movie because we only had 27 minutes. So that was kind of a heartbreaker. The co-director, Naz, we interviewed her daughter and some of her daughter's friends at their school. And, it was such a relief and an inspiration to hear what they had to say. It was so refreshing and encouraging because they are our future. And I was concerned. I mean, there were a few kids that actually expressed that they felt they should be afraid of the books because the way they were being handled and banned, they thought like there was something bad about them. So I think that's also dangerous because it intimidates kids. And if you're a little kid struggling with your identity in some way or trying to understand who you are, your family culture, and you're being bullied, or you're not sure if you're gay or straight or whatever it is, and you read a book like And Tango Makes Three, what a relief that is for a child to know, like, oh, two boys can love each other, you know? And I on a personal note, my brother is gay, and when in the late 80s, when he came out, I don't know that we had a lot of books. There were some movement, but he was a teenager, and he was always in my heart when I was making this film because I remember how he was vilified and abused by the people in public and demonized for being gay. And while we had very progressive, loving parents, it was still like there wasn't enough support. And I think books help support children in their learning in many different ways.
Well, and what struck me so much about the film was, even as a teacher myself, I had heard of much of the book bans, but then when you actually see, and I think it's a structural credit to the film, that it's book after book. You show the book, what it's about, and its status, and so that when you get to things like books about Rosa Parks, and those are being banned, it's like history. I
Yes.
mean, how does it all get lumped together?
Well, when you really analyze and look at what the books, the stories, the books are comprised of, Pen America does a brilliant job with this, putting a percentage of how many of the Black history books are banned, how many books on the Holocaust and Jewish history, how many books on LGBTQ plus matters, books about the war, books about world horrors and women's rights and the right to go to Planned Parenthood. The majority of the books are really comprised of those specific kinds of issues. There are some books, yes, again, we advocate for age appropriate reading. We trust librarians for the most part and school teachers because you're given guidelines to follow, and there are certain protocols. You can't just arbitrarily give kids anything you think you want them to read. It has to be followed and approved. I know there's a lot of curriculum processing. So we believe that educators are following protocols and the kids are not given something before they're ready for it. And so often the attacks on us are that we're promoting sex at a young age inappropriately. We're not doing we don't believe that at all. We really stand behind the best possible care for children. We just want them to have the right to read stories that matter to them and have meaning for them and help them feel part of the world and understand human nature and humankind.
There was one young girl who literally just said, "Why?"
That's
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that might actually be the central argument of the movie, is just why. Did you in the process, did you find an answer?
I mean, yes, the answer is really that objecting to an integrated global American culture is really what I think is the root of the problem here. It's the book banning is the underbelly of suppression and hate. It's not allowing, if you're not white and Christian, other people's lives or stories to matter and to be heard. And so uh, that's really why, and when it hurts children. Children don't want their library or school shelves purged of the truth. It hurts them. If you're yay and Rosa Parks is banned, how do you think that makes a child feel? I mean, that's her identity. She's Black too. And so it's painful. It's painful for people to know that these types of stories are being banned. It's insulting and demeaning, and it's frankly racist.
You know, with a subject like this is obviously such a politically charged subject. In taking the film out and promoting it, what kind of responses have you had to it, other than the Oscar nomination, of course?
Well, thank you. No, we worked very hard to shed light on it, and we're very grateful to the Academy. Um, Social justice issues like this really greatly benefit from the exposure and the platform of the awards. So we're really thankful for that. I think, we've had a limited number of screenings so far, and for the most part, they've been very supportive and illuminating for people. I don't think the general American public realizes the volume of books that are banned. Currently, there are 6,000 books banned in America in 41 states. And let that sink in for a minute. 6,000 books in 41 states. I mean, when we finished the film, it was approximately 2,000 books in 38 states. So that was only like 7 months ago. So it's accelerating at a pace that's extraordinary. And so I think, but we have, like, on social media posts, we've had some very nasty comments being made, some threatening comments. So we're being pretty careful, but we are making it available to schools and to places where we can really get support and get people to help protest this. And not just have the bans be arbitrary. I mean, it takes one parent to raise one objection, and then it's taken out of circulation. And in a lot of states, actually, it's a felony to have a banned book in a classroom or a library. And in the state of Tennessee, in addition to those 2 points, if a bookseller has the book and they're trying to sell it, that's also a felony. And if your kid comes over for a play, if a kid comes over for a play date at your house and you have any of the banned books in the house and that kid tells his parents and they don't agree, that's a felony. So you can look it up. Look it up. I was talking to someone at the ACLU and at Random Penguin House, the Random House Penguin Books, and they were telling me this, and I started looking into it, and I couldn't believe it. They said Tennessee has the worst record in the nation on felon legal threats against book banning, against books that are banned. If you have them.
It's so frustrating to think about a world that is, it's like history repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, was there ever a point in the process of making the film where you found yourself, getting angry to the point where, like, no, I have to, like, keep my emotional objectivity to make this film?
I mean, it was overwhelming and so heartbreaking. I mean, I think it was shocking. I just couldn't believe in 2024. Like, I remember as a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s and all the civil rights movements and everything that we fought so hard for each other. And I thought, this is just utter madness. I mean, some people think it's hysterical and it's a joke and they laugh at it, but it is actually quite serious. But I was more determined to work harder and harder to get it right, and to work with Sheila and Naz and help make sure we got the film right. That how are we going to give voice to the books? We looked at several books, and we were really strategic in which books we chose, and really spent a lot of time thinking about what the quotes from the books were, so that it would show why these books were actually being banned, so that it would register. And then we thought about animation. Sheila loves animation, and we had a great animator to bring the books to life, so people could also see in the books, okay, we see Rosa Parks getting arrested on the bus. She's not agreeing to sit in the back of the bus. So that really shows you, and kids that see this, I see. If they haven't read Rosa Parks, they know what she did. I think that we were really committed to, Sheila Evans is a red diaper baby, and she's just, fiercely committed to this, as we all are. It just made us work harder at wanting to get it out there and to do everything we could to intervene, because at the pace it's accelerating, could be 10,000 books by the end of the summer.
I was looking through your filmography, and I there's this thread that it seems to me of, giving voice to the voiceless. And in this case, we're literally we're talking about words actually being taken away. And I'm curious where that kind of passion originates from.
That's a very nice question. You know, I was raised by really progressive, wonderful parents. My father was had a master's in education, and he worked for ASCAP, the Music Corporation. My mother was an RN, and I was raised fighting for the rights of veterans and volunteering with the quadriplegics and paraplegics. And my parents always said, you know, if you see an injustice, say something and do something. Be a part of good, create mitzvahs, do good deeds, help people. You were given certain things that other people don't have, so share it and be present and supporting and making sure in your end of your life you can try to be a part of something that means something. So I have that kind of commitment. I was in narrative work for many years, and the issue of fracking was coming to my community in the Catskills, and I was sort of surprised. I was like, oh, you mean drilling like they do in Texas? We're going to bring it to this like farming community, like dairy farmers and all these people. It's going to poison the water. And so I grew up in Pittsburgh, and there was quite a lot of fracking in Pittsburgh, and I knew that was quite serious. And I just really devoted everything I had to helping people. Like a lot of people that don't have money can't afford lawyers and don't have the education to read these documents, and selling an acre of land to lease and frack for $25 an acre. That's not giving people fair representation and support. And so we were raised that way, to really care about other people and to really do all you can to shed light on it. And so with this artistic form of communicating, it's all I know how to do.
Well, I think a lot of people are very grateful that you're able to do that. And speaking as an educator, I'm incredibly grateful for it. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Oscars, and stay tuned for interviews with more Oscar nominees leading up to the big show on March 10th. Trish Adlesic, congratulations to you and Sheila, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate it.